topic to preach on during our seemingly apocalyptic times. We are confronted by increased police and civilian violence against black and brown bodies, increased gun violence, increased immigration raids, bombings, a worldwide refugee crisis, and threat of nuclear war. Since last year's presidential election, we have witnessed a spike in harassment and intimidation against many groups, especially against immigrants, people of African descent, Latinx people, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans people, Muslim, Jews, and women. We see evidence of global climate disruption through record-setting air temperatures, decline in sea masses, and sea ice masses at a much higher rate than predicted by climate scientists, and powerful hurricanes fueled by warming ocean waters. As if this weren't enough, we have the normal losses that happen. We mourn lost jobs, roles, and communities. We mourn our loved ones who die from natural causes. Friends, we have many reasons to grieve. What am I doing here preaching about play? I'm preaching about play because we've got to do something with all of this information that bombards our senses day and night, especially if we are glued to the media pouring through our various devices. We need to do something so that we are able to grieve our losses instead of being numb to the world. We want to be able to hug the laughter and feel the cry. Ching, 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 flung, flung, flung. Did you see that? I just painted the ceilings and walls by flinging invisible paint. Let's give ourselves permission to take a break from the weight of the matters of this world. Do you want to paint with me?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Sing, sing,
Thank you.
Color better.
Yes, our values call us to counter injustice and express compassion. Working toward justice, especially in a community like this fellowship and with other groups, is one way we can counter our feelings of helplessness in the midst of problems we cannot solve alone. In addition to the injustices we are exposed to in our everyday lives and through our media, many of us are under stress in our roles as caregivers. We may be caregivers through our employment and or in our biological and chosen families. We may be employed in fields such as healthcare and social services. We may be parenting children and providing care to elderly and disabled family and friends. When we serve as caregivers, we need to care for ourselves in order to avoid burnout. We need practices that sustain ourselves, whether or not we are activists or caregivers. We are all affected in ways that are not always life-giving. Friends, we need to respect the inherent worth and dignity of ourselves. Each of us has inherent worth and dignity worth respecting. We can do this by expressing self-compassion through play. When we express compassion to ourselves, we strengthen the interdependent web of existence. In a moment, let's all take one breath together. We'll breathe in and then breathe out audibly. So breathe in. Let's do that again. We are born playful. Children naturally release tension in playful ways. As we grow, many of us forget playful ways to release tension, or we don't learn healthy ways to release tension. Instead, many of us turn to alcohol, drugs, food, shopping, and other activities with a good intention of reducing stress. Unfortunately, those activities may result in harmful impacts, including hangovers, belly aches, credit card debt, and more. If these activities persist, they can turn into addictions with their own consequences on our relationship with others and ourselves. As adults, we need to give ourselves permission to play. We need to create spaces for ourselves to play. And we need to unlearn some of the inhibitions we have developed. There are many ways to do this. Some people find playfulness in art, music, and drama. Others find it in social activities and exercise. What's important is that we find activities that allow us to let go of tension and replace weight with lightness. 2 summers ago, I served as an intern chaplain at a hospital. During the evening of my last on-call shift, after a full day of visiting patients, I met with a young adult who was entering hospice because they were denied an organ transplant. Immediately after that visit, I met with another patient a few doors down who was waiting to hear whether they would receive a life-sustaining transplant. A few hours later, at around midnight, an emergency room doctor called me to be with the children of a single parent who had died suddenly. After returning to my room after the emergency room visit, I meditated and tried to sleep. Images, emotions, and analysis whirled around inside me and kept me from sleeping. The next day, I tried my best to have a normal Saturday with my family, while trying not to ruminate. I was mostly unsuccessful. Images of the children, the dead father, the dying young adult, and the hospital staff bombarded me. I continued to replay the events. I felt sadness and anger that the young adult had been denied a transplant. I worried about the children who had lost their parents. I replayed the emergency room visit several times, with me saying and doing different things, wondering which words and actions would have been more helpful. Please do this again with me. Thank you. Fortunately, in the evening, my family went to a going away party for friends who were moving out of the country. For the better part of a few hours, reconnecting with former coworkers, meeting new people, and ritual distracted me from the previous night's experiences. However, by the end of the evening, I found that those situations remained in my digestive tract. On Sunday, I could barely eat anything or even get out of bed. Luckily, I had Monday off and was able to recover enough to make it into work on Tuesday. But I had to change my eating habits for the next several weeks. What I needed to do, aside from the minor task of letting go of perfectionism, was to learn techniques so that the difficult situations would flow through me instead of remaining inside of me. If I had ranted in gibberish and flung my body around after the emergency room visit, like I just did, I might have had a more restful night. Ranting in gibberish several times that following day would have helped me take a break from ruminating so that I could be more present to my family. Ranting in gibberish, flinging, and breathing out audibly are forms of play that are taught in interplay workshops and classes. These forms of play require no fancy style. They're just pure play. Interplay is a movement and storytelling modality that helps people integrate body, mind, and spirit. I first learned about interplay through interplay racial healing workshops that my church sponsored a few years ago. Then, at a church retreat, I attended a basic interplay workshop. The leader said that interplay was good for recovering serious people. For recovering serious people. Friends, I have a confession. I am a recovering serious person. When I heard the leader say that interplay was for recovering serious people, I thought, whoa, I could use a remedial interplay workshop because I'm not even in recovery yet. So now that I've begun recovery, I enjoy teaching interplay X formation tools such as flinging and ranting and gibberish to people who are having a difficult time managing stress. X formation counters the negative information we take in. Some of us might need to X form more than others because of how we are treated due to our race, class, gender, ability status, and I could go on. In a moment, I will invite you to rant and gibberish. What you do is think of something that upsets you and then rant about it using the language of gibberish. Don't worry if a subject doesn't come to mind before you start. It might come to mind as you are ranting, and regardless, this activity is unlikely to cause any harm. Okay, now begin. Gibberish ranting, audible sighing, and flinging may or may not be for you. And this seems like they are. There are many ways to play. What matters is that you find the practices that show respect for yourself. What matters is that your practices demonstrate self-compassion. We need self-compassion in a world that places us under daily stress. Today's world demands that we become strong warriors of peace. As Buddha said, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself. And that person is not to be found anywhere. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection.